It's a Turkey Monday, folks. Back in August, Russell's Reserve, the popular single barrel brand from Wild Turkey, announced the debut of an all-new annual limited edition collection named Russell's Reserve Single Rickhouse. This is the first release with barrels pulled from the legendary retired Rickhouse, Camp Nelson C. The goal is for each of these releases to be a distinct expression of the location or rickhouse where the rare bourbon is aged, and the terroir of that single rickhouse is featured in each and every bottle. These releases are rare, expensive, and today we're gonna put it to the test. Is it better than Russell's 13? Is it better than a good Russell's pick? Is it better than Rare Breed? Let's break it down on a Turkey Monday. It's the Mash and Drum. What's up, folks? I'm Jason C. from the Mash and Drum. Welcome back to the show. It's a very good day when we are talking turkey, and this is probably one of the more hyped releases so far this fall. First off, this is the inaugural release, so it features bourbon from only 72 barrels from the now dismantled 7-story rickhouse Camp Nelson C. So a couple fun facts about the warehouse. I was talking to Bo Garrett, the legendary tour guide and brand ambassador over at Wild Turkey. It was built in 1946, and it was originally part of the Canada Dry Distilling Company, which I thought was pretty interesting. Now, it was decommissioned in 2021 and was situated on top of a hill next to the Kentucky River. It was made from timber and tin to naturally control internal temperatures with space for air to circulate and allow the barrels to breathe during the aging process. It was decommissioned just based on structural integrity being an issue. It was leaning pretty bad apparently, and it just couldn't be saved. Eddie began tasting through barrels selected for consideration for this release, and he knew immediately once he tasted from the Camp Nelson C center cut barrels that he found a special batch. A unanimous decision apparently by all who tasted it, including master distiller Jimmy Russell and Eddie's son Bruce Russell. So your first thought might be, because it was my first thought, what makes this different than a Russell's Reserve single barrel? Well, single barrel popularity is based on how different they can be from barrel to barrel. Two barrels next to each other in the same warehouse can actually taste completely different. The idea here is that multiple single barrels from the different floors in the same rickhouse are batched together and blended together to help capture the DNA or the essence of what that flavor profile is coming out of that specific warehouse. All right, so the stats on this one, the barrels are considered all to be aged for over 10 years. It's non-chill filtered, bottled at 112.4 proof, which is actually barrel proof. Availability is super mega uber limited. Price for this one, $250, and that's retail price. But prepare yourself for high markups on this bottle based on all the rarity. Let's go. Man, that smells like good turkey. Woo. This is just a great, I'm not gonna say classic turkey profile, because I feel like there's some other stuff going on here. This is all brown sugar, baking spice, cinnamon, nutmeg. I mean, and it's very prevalent. You know, I still get like that classic Wild Turkey, like burnt charred orange peel that I get in a lot of turkey products. Some of it's a little bit more lighter and brighter. This definitely comes through as a lot more charred and almost burnt. Definitely a little bit more concentrated. I mean, the oak is definitely prevalent. And one thing I noticed about this is, and it kind of made me nervous when I first poured this bottle, is how light the color is. It came off a lot lighter than I thought it was gonna be. But I feel like the nose is kind of, you know, contradicting the color a little bit. I think there's almost like a burnt, like caramel apple thing going on too. It's like, I feel like I'm getting apple, but it's like coated in like the caramel coating that's like almost burnt. It's kind of nice. One thing that I'm also looking for in this glass I'm not really getting is like that cherry note that sometimes you get from Russell's Reserve, or just Wild Turkey, some of the older Wild Turkeys in general. Don't get like a huge burst of cherry here. It might be there slightly, maybe it'll pop up as it opens up, but for me it's really, this is all about the brown sugar, the vanilla cream, the baking spice, and that burnt orange. Very classic turkey, except a little bit more on the baking spice side. So let's give it a go. I need a minute. I did not expect that type of spice to come from this. Again, the baking spice that I was getting from the nose is all transitioning to the palate as well. It's spicy. It's a spicy meatball, guys. Need another sip. All right, so on the palate, man, that toffee is strong on this. The toffee and the burnt orange, all just kind of taking over. A little bit of the oak as well. But I think the flavor profile of this is actually, it's different, it's unique. And I think that's, you know, that's what you would expect from Warehouse C. But man, those baking spices, guys, it's crazy. It's like an apple pie, toffee apple pie, caramel apple, laced with like this, with just like fresh whipped cream, not like that spray can shit. I'm talking like fresh made whipped cream, the vanilla extract, and then all the like the burnt orange notes. All right, so I'm starting to get a little bit of a dark fruit type note here, but it's not cherry. It's actually coming a little bit more through for me as a little bit of like a grape / raisin. I definitely can appreciate that. I think the main selling point to this bourbon for me is how baking spice forward it is, because I love cinnamon, I love nutmeg, and it's very forward in that aspect. But also the finish on this, the rye spice, how much black pepper, how much rye forward it is. But all like that black pepper and the tea, like a black tea type note that you get on the end of a good rye whiskey is all coming through on this on the back end. So like when you're talking about viscosity of this, it's not super mouth coating, but it is pretty velvety, just the way it kind of glides across like your palate. It kind of sticks to the sides of your tongue. But then when it gets to the back end of the palate, man. Now you guys know I love a good finish, but you know, I find myself maybe wanting a little bit more from the front of the palate versus the back palate. All right, one more sip and we'll do some comparisons. Yeah, it's a unique flavor profile. I don't think any turkey enthusiast, wild turkey enthusiast would argue that point. I think this thing makes its money on the back of the palate, maybe mid to back palate. That's where all the flavors are, really. Front of the palate, it's not doing too much. You get a little bit of the tingliness from that spice, but man, is that a $250 bottle? Let's do some comparisons. All right, so what do we have here? We're having the best early Thanksgiving Day dinner ever. We have a Russell's 13, we have our single Rickhouse, we have a Russell's Reserve store pick that I selected. You know, I figured I'd put this in this mix because I love this pick so much that, you know, is this better than that? I feel like, you know, for my palate, let's check it out. And of course, we got the OG, the one that everybody loves. It is the Rare Breed. So first, we'll just run through the noses quickly. Let's go to Rare Breed. Rare Breed is just so classic turkey. Again, that citrus, the spice, a little bit more vanilla cream, orange, toffee. But what you don't get with the single Rickhouse, the single Rickhouse is way more elevated. I mean, everything is so much more concentrated. Everything just has like an extra layer of just flavor and sweetness to it. All right, let's try the Rare Breed. All right, so when you compare these two, you realize how much more concentrated, and you know, this is pretty viscous. When you compare it to Rare Breed, the viscosity of this definitely comes through. So I would definitely give this, just off one sip, I would give this an uptick. Definitely probably a few upticks over Rare Breed. Rare Breed is great, but this single Rickhouse has that velvety mouthfeel. It's got a lot more of just a viscous type of flavor profile, and all the sweetness levels that you love. It even, I think, has more spice than Rare Breed does, which is, that's saying something. All right, just that baking spice DNA that's in this bottle is really what's kind of winning me over. All right, let's go to my own pick, which is a Russell's Reserve pick, because I think that's what everyone's gonna ask. Is it better than Russell's Reserve picks? All right, so on the nose, oh, I gotta say, my Russell's pick is actually a lot closer on the nose than the Rare Breed is. So sweet, oaky, baking spice heavy, because that's what I like. All right, so the big difference here is that my pick actually has a little bit more of a nuttiness to it. A little bit more of like a peanut butter, but you get the cherry, the peanut butter. There's definitely that spice that's there. But again, I don't think it really has the mouthfeel compared to single Rickhouse. Let's see. You know what? I think my Russell's pick is closer to the single Rickhouse than the Rare Breed is. When you compare, they're both spicy. I think the flavor profiles are obviously different. Now, my pick is a G. It's a Warehouse G, Tyrone G pick. So not into the Camp Nelsons, but yeah, when you start comparing these, I think the Russell's picks, and I would assume that some really, really good Russell's picks can probably get close to that. Just saying. All right, Russell's 13 now. This is kind of the biggie. I mean, both of these are super limited anyway, but I think there's more Russell's 13 than there is single Rickhouse. So where Russell's 13 shines is the oak. The oak and the cherry and the viscosity and the finish. But it's more of a flavor bomb, I think, from front to back. The single Rickhouse, I think, lacks on the front, but shines on the back end. Oh yeah, okay, when you compare now, the single Rickhouse does not stand up to how good the Russell's 13 is. This is very good. But the Russell's 13, I don't think this gets to that point. All right, guys, so let's recap the comparison here. Single Rickhouse versus Rare Breed. Single Rickhouse wins. Not even close. Rare Breed, great barrel-proof bourbon. It's got the spice, it's got everything that you want in a barrel-proof bourbon, plus it has the amazing value. But when it comes to flavor profile and viscosity, single Rickhouse takes it. Russell's Reserve store picks. Now, this is my own pick. I'm sure if you try a multitude of picks, I really do believe you could find probably something pretty close to that, to the single Rickhouse. So, I mean, it'll be hard because, you know, the single Rickhouse has a lot of different characteristics that are very unique to those Camp Nelson warehouses. Now, if you go back to try, I have to go back and look for some of my old Camp Nelson warehouse store picks and compare it against single Rickhouse. I'll have to maybe do that on a live stream and see how that shakes out. But I really do believe that when you talk about viscosity and spice and the uniqueness that's in the single Rickhouse, I feel like you could probably get pretty close with a really good Russell's Reserve store pick. And then finally, Russell's 13. It is not better than Russell's 13. Russell's 13 has all the things that I love about Wild Turkey. It's got the oak, it's got the viscosity, it's got the flavor, and you could taste everything. Everything is in flavor explosion from front to back. It's incredible. So that would be my ranking. Now to the single Rickhouse final breakdown. I have some things to say. All right, it is final breakdown time. Price, as I said, retail price, $250. Secondary market value, already seeing these in the $500 to $800 range. That's basically because of the rarity, and because this warehouse has been decommissioned, you're not really ever gonna be able to taste this ever again. All right, when it comes to availability, I can't even say limited for this because I think it's even more than limited. It's like limited edition, ultra rare, you know, super uber limited. Just pick your limited thing, and that's what it is. It's hard to get. It's not a lot of bottles. It's only available in a certain amount of states. This is gonna be a tough one. All right, so value. This is where I have some stuff to say. Here we go. So it's above Rare Breed, as we found out. It's below Russell's 13, and it's probably a step above most Russell's Reserve barrel picks. I'll also say this. Out of all the recent Wild Turkey special releases I've tried in recent months, going back to last year, aside from some killer single barrels, this has probably been the most unique. I mean, given the uniqueness of the Camp Nelson warehouses, it doesn't surprise me. However, with that said, I hate that this is $250. And here's why. Pricing for Wild Turkey is generally considered high value. When you look at 101, you look at Rare Breed, you look at Russell Reserve, the bourbons, the ryes, whatever it may be. Great accessible whiskeys and great prices across the board. Now, the special releases of late, including the Master's Keeps, has me questioning the direction of what Campari and Wild Turkey are kind of doing. I don't think it's really so much a Wild Turkey thing as it is a Campari thing. But when you're talking retail pricing, I'm just going retail, don't leave secondary out of it. 2 years ago, Master's Keep Bottled in Bond 17 was $175 a bottle. That was a 17-year-old bourbon. Russell's 13 last year, which included some 19-year-old bourbon in the blend, had a retail price of about $75. I think we saw an uptick this year to about $100, But Master's Keep 1, the toasted turkey blend that a lot of people liked, I wasn't a big fan. I did not think that was Master's Keep worthy. It was a blend of 9, 10, and a bit of 14-year-old bourbon, 175. This is at least 10 years old. Great story from a historic warehouse, but they want you to pay $250 for that. And believe me, I love the idea of the single Rickhouse, but the future of this release is what worries me. I just hope it doesn't turn into what the Colonel Taylor from Buffalo Trace releases have become. You know, Tornado Survivor, Warehouse C, which are basically, you know, have become simply collectible yellow tubes with different color writing on it, and, you know, kind of a nice story. Now, while I have complete faith in the Russells and what they do, I wonder what single Rickhouses will be next in the stories behind them. I mean, a decommissioned warehouse story is pretty friggin' cool, and it may be hard to beat that one in the future, but I hope future releases aren't forced marketing ploys that just end up being really rare turkey unicorns that not a lot of people get to try. My 2 cents? Shrink this down to a 375 milliliter bottle, lower the price to $100, and make it more accessible for everyone to enjoy this rare, delicious whiskey. So when compared to the releases that we've seen the last couple years, value for this one, I'm gonna say it's low. What's the most I pay? I mean, retail. I mean, I did pay significantly more than this, like to, you know, for just to be transparent with everyone. I paid above retail to get this bottle because I'm a turkey fan and I had to have this and I really wanted to try it. And, you know, I wanted to, of course, review it, you know, for you guys. But if I had to go back, I wouldn't have paid what I paid for that bottle. I would just stick to retail. Is this a recommend? Yeah, absolutely. If you're a Wild Turkey nut like I am, it's a delicious representation of Camp Nelson, of a Camp Nelson warehouse, how different they could be. And even if you pay the $250 retail price to get one, I really feel like 95% of the folks are gonna absolutely love this. However, if you don't have the means or want to spend the upcharge of, you know, $700 to $800 to try to get one of these bottles, you know, keep hunting Russell Reserve single barrels. They're really good, especially if someone is picking them. Those are $60 to $70. They could be so damn good. I think they could really get close to this. So as good as this single Rickhouse is, I think $250 when you compare it to their other releases recently is just too high of a markup. And I just hope the trend just doesn't become a forced marketing type of bottle from Wild Turkey. All right, guys, well, hope you enjoyed this review for the new Russell Reserve single Rickhouse. Hope you enjoyed it. If you did, hit that subscribe button below. Please hit the like button. If you haven't yet, find me on Instagram, find me on Twitter. Let me know if you guys have had this yet down in the comments, what you think of my breakdown. And as I always say, it's not about the whiskey, it's the people you share it with. Cheers. See you next time right here on the Master and Drum. We have another turkey coming up real soon, guys. It's the new Master's Keep. Get ready for that. Cheers. Here we go. Take care.